Now for news from the eNCA Money Desk, Pio Madzena joining me in studio. So the President has just wrapped up that third investment conference. He's declared it an absolute success. He's delighted with the money raised.
That's right, especially in these tough economic times, Sally. He made some important announcement about how much money was raised at this particular investment summit, and new companies that have come to the fore to pledge their investment and their belief in the fact that South Africa is going to be able to improve its economic outlook. Here he is with those announcements.
In this, the third year of our conference, 50 companies have made investments commitment to the value of, as you heard, 109 billion and 600 million. And Program Director, you're absolutely right. I do wish I could wave a magic wand and get that one or two companies to say, we will round it up for you, Mr. President, and make it 110 billion. But be that as it may, this brings the total value of the investment commitments over the last 3 years to 773.6 billion rand. It is a whoopingly huge number, and you should applaud yourself on that basis.
Still on matters investments, in an effort to ensure small and medium-sized businesses in South Africa survive the economic crisis, which has been exacerbated by the COVID-19, more than 50 large companies have formally committed to paying their SME suppliers in 30 days. Now, that's one form of investment in our SMEs, but what about other initiatives that will ensure that they're able to contribute meaningfully to the economy? Joining me now for this discussion is Lisa Klein, who's a board member at Business for South Africa and the SA SME fund, Steerco. Lisa, many thanks for joining me this evening. Maybe let's start with a reflection on what came out of the investment summit when it comes to providing solid support to South Africa's SMEs who, as I've just mentioned, have suffered greatly from COVID-19.
Thanks for having me. I think one of the things about the investment conference that we have to note is that it's being held against the backdrop of the pandemic. It's also being held against the backdrop of, contraction of 10% of our economy, increased levels of unemployment, and also concerns about how quickly the state can move in terms of implementation. And so given that backdrop, I think what the President has achieved, and the fact that there were approximately 110 billion new pledges today has been relatively impressive. In terms of SMEs face this very similar issues in terms of the ease of doing business as large corporates do. We all know that we have to move up on the ease of doing business, world competitive rankings. We all know the structural reforms that have to happen in terms of the economy. We all know that we now need to tighten our belts and make sure that what we focus on is implementation. And those issues that were raised in the investment conference by the President, as well as many of the other corporate spokespeople, are very similar issues which impact SMEs.
Right. Now, another important element that I've just spoken about is that payment to SME suppliers by large companies. Government has struggled to do this for years, and here has been a commitment by 50 large companies to pay within 30 days. Why are we seeing this announcement as a big announcement? What has been the trend in the past?
Well, I think what's been very important and why it is, I think, hugely significant that over 50 CEOs of the largest companies have committed to pay their small businesses in 50 days is because the COVID pandemic and the recession have really exacerbated issues of cash flow for small businesses. In a month when Stats SA is reporting unemployment levels of over 30%, it's estimated, I think, around 1 million jobs are going to be lost amongst formal and informal SMEs. In that type of environment, cash flow is king. And being able to assist with that for all of these large corporates to harness their collective resources to come to the party and say, this is something that we are doing right now. It is something that we can actively do, and we can shorten payment terms to try and alleviate some of the real stresses and strains that small business people are experiencing, I think is impressive.
And do you believe it will be sustainable for these big corporates? I know they are larger than the SMEs, but the economic climate is tough, and they have also seen struggles.
Look, I think it is important. It's an important question. What we're really looking to do is to institutionalize a culture, if you like, of early payments, to have this as part of annual reporting from companies, to look and say that, in fact, there's a new shift in the world. There's a shift towards stakeholder capitalism, where our supply chains, as well as our customers, are part of a shared value narrative. And I think that that is something where a number of CEOs locally as well as globally are moving. And that's something that's really heartened us, is the extent to which there has been a real sense that this is something we need to institutionalize and we need to continue doing irrespective of a pandemic.
Right. Lisa Klein, Business for South Africa and SA SME Fund board member, many thanks for your time this evening.